Hey everyone, I'm here with Steve Topenak. He is a dentist and dental practice owner based out of Pennsylvania. We've been working for the past few months here, and we've actually helped him secure over $3.5 million in single digit and low interest capital. Steve, can you please introduce yourself and your business? Tell us about what you do and kind of what was going on when you reached out for help.
So I own now three practices and dental practices in the Philadelphia area, and we had originally two of them, and we everything's based on cash flow, what we were doing, how fast we were expanding, and I needed more credit to be able to expand the existing practice as well as another practice came up for sale, and that happened so fast as the existing application for the loan for the expansion practice was happening that I needed more options and more revenue to be able to make things happen. And I reached out to Dan, and Dan was able to not only make sure my credit report stayed clean because I had a really good high credit score, and we needed to free up funds. So with dealing with the banks, as you know, they want everything, and they'll sit there and they'll say, "Oh, well, we need this paid off," and then you need to pay off something else. So we had to have some credit available to us to be able to move funds around to be able to get these loans to go through, and that's where Dan came in and was very, very, very helpful.
Excellent. And just like you said, you had 800 credit. You have, multiple practices already. You're in a low risk industry. Yet, you still reached out for help. Was there anything in particular that kind of caught your attention at that time, or you were really kind of looking for help with that you wanted to make sure went right?
Well, the one thing was the low interest loans or low interest credit cards, zero interest credit cards was something I saw that I liked. The other thing was you taught me that depending upon what you put on the American Express cards, not only were they zero interest, that wasn't showing up on my personal credit report. So my 859 credit score, every time we did something, stayed up there, and it wasn't held against me with when dealing with the banks, which was very, very helpful.
100%. And when we got started, I know we started small. We were just like, hey, let's get a line of credit. We weren't really aiming for a ton of capital. What were like the original expectations? I think it was just like what, the 350K line of credit, right?
Right. I was just looking for
Yeah.
350K. And then as the other practice came available to buy, then all of a sudden with the expansion loan, I realized I needed more than 350.
How much more did we need? Like, what was
Well, the expansion loan ended up being 2.6 million because the bank wanted they just didn't want to finance the expansion. They had to refinance the real estate, the practice loan, everything. So that changed everything. And then the price of the new practice came up, and we had to make sure we had funds for that, and we had to have the 20% down. So next thing I know, I'm looking for a line of credit that I could pull the 20% down for the new practice, and that it wasn't touching the funds that I had saved in the bank.
Excellent. Excellent. And just to go through that list of approvals, I just want to, let everyone know, that 3.59, I think maybe even we actually got approved for another line of credit, which we'll talk about on this list that we didn't even take. But we got 230,000 and 0% cards. We got that $340,000 loan line of credit. What was the rate on that first line of credit?
It was low.
It was like
I, I,
5%,
I
five and
want
change.
yeah, I want to say between 5 and 6% on that
Yeah.
particular one.
Excellent. And then we got another line of credit for 150. And we got approved for another one at 175, but they also wanted a UCC, so we didn't take that.
Right.
And then we got $200,000 in personal term loans to clear another debt so we could get this. And the magnum opus, the jewel loan was the $2.67 million loan. What was the rate on that one?
We were able to get them down to 5.49%
Wow.
for the real estate as well as the expansion loan
They
for everything.
refied everything basically, right? And that's when we brought in the other bank to compete and they kind of, did a little back and forth and you ended up with, that massive loan.
Correct. I did learn the hard way. When you're applying for bank loans, go to three banks at the same time,
Yep.
because they change the terms on you. They want to do different things. They'll say you're approved, but then they're short 100,000 or something. So you got to work three entities at the same time and make them be competitive when it came to the interest rate and what they were doing for you.
You think you would have been able to do all of this by yourself without any help?
You were extremely helpful. You took a lot of stress and pressure off my shoulders, especially with how fast things happened and your contacts and the which cards were the best ones to go for. So that was helpful. And then also freeing up some of my monthly payments because now it's 0%. So that helps. And then I got a year float on that. So I can pay that down at 0%. So it just took a lot of stress off my shoulders.
100%. And now, we're over 3 million. We started about not even a year, right? It's
Uh,
really almost been half a year since we started. Were you expecting to get, the results, this quickly?
no, one, I didn't realize how fast things were going to move.
Did you expect you could get this much money? Like when on our first call, right? I remember, I was like, yeah, you really can get access to all this. We didn't even know we could get this much. Were you like, yeah, yeah, for sure.
No, because the banks, the banks are so tight right now with everything. But the lines of credit, yeah, were amazing to be able to get that. Now, obviously, you got to keep in the back of your head, whatever you're approved for, you still got to be able to pay it.
Of
So that,
course.
there's always that. But other than that, it enabled us to get the loan so we could grow because the one practice is going to go from 5 operatories, doing 2.7 million a year, and we're going to expand to 13 operatories. So we
Wow.
should be able to almost triple that practice within the next year
Wow.
once the construction's done. Um,
That's
so
amazing.
and if it wasn't for you, I don't think I would have been able to pull that off.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I mean, I really appreciate you putting your trust into us, right? Because, if you put your trust into the wrong person for something like this and, they mess up the funding, they get you denied at that critical moment and none of this happens, you're in a lot of trouble. But, I know in the beginning it was a little stressful, as we're working, we're like, hey, is this going to really happen? At what point in the process did you realize that you made the right decision, right?
When the banks started moving forward with everything and saying we're close,
Mhm.
that was very, very inspiring that I made the right decisions, and being able to move things around, so the banks were able to do what they needed to do. The one thing I would warn people with is, I wouldn't say it's a warning, but basically, depending upon what type of credit you're getting, you got to be careful they don't file a UCC on the business, especially if that business is going for the new loan, because
Right.
the line of credit had a UCC filed on. We didn't realize that until we were getting close to the loan process, and they were
That
like,
was
"Oh
fun.
well, yeah, oh you got to remove this $150,000 line of credit that has a UCC on it." I'm like, "What?" And so luckily we had the lines of credit that we were able to pay off that line of credit, which wasn't a problem. But then we were going to close the next week, and they said, "Oh, it takes up to 30 days to get the UCC removed." And thanks to Dan and his partner Kim, I literally filed everything, made some phone calls on a Friday at like 5 o'clock, and Monday I'm getting an email with a letter stating that the UCC was removed, even though everyone told me it would take 30 days. So that was fabulous that we were able to get that thing removed that fast, and then we closed on the loan 3 days later. So sometimes things happen at the last moment, but it happened. It made it work.
We knew how to handle it, right? Like, it's you don't panic, you just have a system, it works, and boom, we get it done. And I know, you're impressed by that, but you also told me the funny anecdote about your banker being impressed by how quick, we cleaned up the credit. I want you to tell people about that.
So I'm sitting with the banker, and she's like, "Oh, well, we got to pull your credit again." I said, "Wait 3 days because my guys he needs to clean it up again, make sure that all those inquiries are off." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, they're going to be wiped off in another day or two." And she's like, "How the heck does he do that?" I said, I'm not telling you. It's a secret." And she pulls it, all the inquiries are off, and it was real clean, and the credit score was still 59, 859, and she says, "No, we're good to go." So that
Proof,
was very
boom.
helpful. Yeah, very helpful. But she's like, "Who the heck do you know that can do this kind of stuff?" I'm like, my secret.
Excellent. Well, definitely. So I would say, definitely a lot of fun, a lot of really, successful results so far. But what would you say to, someone else who may have a dental practice, maybe two, three, and they want to expand? Maybe they have capital, they have good credit, they know they can go borrow money, kind of same position as you. What would you say to someone, thinking about booking a call or working with us in that position?
So somebody, I read this. I think it was one of actually Trump's books. So I read that, always use other people's money when you can, especially if you can borrow it cheap. And obviously there's times that you have to show for the bank how much money you have in the bank. That's your money. But if you can do it fast and borrow on lines of credit that don't even show up yet, and you're able to maneuver the situation as fast as we did, we made it happen because of that. So it works. If you got a decent business and you got a decent plan and you know what your business can do, a lot of times you're limited because you don't have enough funds or you don't have enough credit. And this was a way of getting that credit so I could get it done.
Awesome. 100%. Steve, really appreciate it. Again, we still got way more work. We're just a few months into the process. Excited to see how your business grows. Anything else you want to add? Anyone listening, a
Not
message to the
trust,
audience?
trust Dan. It's not a scam. He actually gets results. He's got the contacts. He's got the people. He knows which cards and banks and entities work well. And he's been extremely helpful. So I do recommend him for anybody. He's well worth his fee.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.